Students, welcome to online physics classes. I am Srilata Madan, lecturer in physics, ASC Independent PU College, Bangalore. Now, before starting the session, you just go through the disclaimer. All these online classes are exclusively made for ASC students. So please don't share the videos to others. Now, in today's session, I am going to start a new chapter, chapter 11, which is dual nature of radiation and matter. Now let us just have a look at the content of the lesson. In session 1, you have introduction, electron emission, photoelectric effect, experimental study of photoelectric effect, Einstein's photoelectric equation, particle nature of light, wave nature of matter, and Davison-Germer experiment. Then you have numericals in this lesson. This chapter is for 6 marks. You can expect both theory as well as numericals from this lesson. Now, in today's session, we'll just have a look at the introduction of the lesson, electron emission, and photoelectric effect. The name itself indicates dual nature of radiation and matter, which means dual means two. Radiation and matter are the two basic physical entities of the entire universe. Universe is classified into two basic physical entities, namely radiation and matter. Radiation is a form of energy. Matter is material particles. Now, radiation is, when I say it's a form of energy, all radiations, example gamma ray radiation, X-rays, and even the light which we receive from the sun, all these are electromagnetic radiations which are forms of energy which we can only experience. Whereas matter is material particle which has mass and occupies space. Now, nature comprises of both radiation and matter. Radiation again exhibits wave nature sometimes and particle nature sometimes. Now, when you have to attribute wave nature, wave has some basic properties associated with it, which are wavelength, frequency, time period, etc., etc. And particle nature is attributed to the properties like momentum, energy, etc. Now, in wave nature, you can study the phenomenon like interference, diffraction, and polarization. All these are examples where radiation behaves as a wave, whereas in examples like photoelectric effect and Compton effect, radiation behaves as a particle. So you need to understand radiation sometimes behaves as a wave and sometimes behaves as a particle. Hence, radiation is said to exhibit dual nature. Now, similar to radiation, which exhibits dual nature, matter also exhibits dual nature, and this concept will be dealt in the last session of the chapter. In the next segment of the lesson, you will study historic discoveries in the 19th century. In 19th century, many discoveries were made, and all these discoveries were very helpful in understanding the atomic structure of the atom. Now, let us see the discoveries in the sequence. Now, many theories were put forth to explain the nature of light. Some experiments proved that light is of wave nature, and some experiments proved light is of particle nature. Now, Maxwell's and Hertz experiments in the detection of electromagnetic waves, they strongly established the wave nature of light, which means the light propagates like a wave, which we can correspond to having wavelength, etc., etc. At the end of 19th century, many experimental investigations on conduction of electricity through gases at low pressure in a discharge tube led to many historic discoveries. A few experiments were done to establish wave nature of light. At the same time, many experiments were conducted and conduction of electricity through gases at very low pressures were studied, and this experiments led to many historic discoveries. And the discovery of X-ray by Rontgen and electrons by J.J. Thomson were important milestones in understanding the atomic structure. All these were done later in the 19th century. Some experiments proved wave nature of light and some they proved particle nature of light. All these were very important milestones to understand the atomic structure. In the next slide, you will just go through series of experiments done and the discoveries made by different scientists. William Crookes, you might have heard this name. He is attributed for the discovery of cathode rays. He discovered cathode rays and he suggested that these rays consisted of streams of fast moving negatively charged particles. When he was doing experiments through a discharge tube, he studied that cathode rays were produced when the pressure was very low, and these rays consisted of streams of fast movingly negative charged particles. Later on, this hypothesis was confirmed by J.J. Thomson. So the experiments which were conducted by Crookes, through those experiments cathode rays were discovered, and this discovery was confirmed by J.J. Thomson. And he was the first person to determine the speed and the specific charge of the cathode ray particles. So these cathode ray particles, they move with some velocity. So that velocity was determined by J.J. Thomson, and the specific charge of the cathode ray particles, specific charge is the ratio of the charge to mass of the particle. So he studied the speed as well as the specific charge of the particle of the cathode rays. Now these particles were found to travel with speeds. When he determined the speeds were found to be ranging from 0.1 to 0.2 times the speed of light. The speed of light is 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. So the cathode ray particles were traveling with the speeds which were about 0.1 to 0.2 times the speed of light. And the E by M value, this E by M value is called the specific charge value, and this value was found to be equal to 1.76 into 10 to the power 11 coulomb per kilogram. Charge to mass, so coulomb per kilogram. Coulomb is the SI unit for charge. This value was found to be independent of the nature of the material. When experiments were done using cathodes were made of different materials, and in the discharge tube different gases were taken. This value was independent of the nature of the material which is used as the cathode, and it was independent of the gas which was used in the discharge tube. So the charge to mass ratio was found to be independent to the material or the gas which was taken in the discharge tube. So this observation suggested the universality of cathode ray particles. So even if you change the metal or the gas in the discharge tube, the cathode ray particles which were emitted, they had the same EM by value, which is 1.76 into 10 to the power 11 coulomb per kilogram. And later experiments were done under different conditions. What do you mean by different conditions? When different metals were taken, and if those metals were exposed to UV light, some particles were emitted. Similarly, if the same metal was heated to a higher temperature and particles were found to be emitted. Similarly, if some electric field is applied to a metal surface, even then particles were found to emit. All these particles were observed to be identical in nature, and all of them had the same E by M value as that of the cathode ray particles. So all these observations, they gave an inference that these particles are identical in nature, and these particles were given the name electrons. So J.J. Thomson was the first person to discover the electrons. So cathode ray particles were given the name electrons, and he suggested that these electrons are the fundamental universal constituents of matter. Later on, once the electrons were discovered, Millikan was one more scientist. He was performing experiments with oil drop to measure precisely the charge on an electron. So this experiment proved that the charge on an electron is an integral multiple of elementary charge. This concept you have studied in electric charges, where in properties of charges you have studied that charge is quantized. So this property was given by Millikan when he was performing oil drop experiment. He found that the charges on the electron were integral multiple of the elementary charge. So oil drop can have charges equal to E, 2E, 3E and so on, etc. So this experiment established that electric charge is quantized. So based on this experiment, he was able to establish the fact that electric charges are quantized. So let us just have a look at the discoveries which were done in a sequence. First, William Crookes discovered cathode rays, and he suggested that it consisted of fast moving negatively charged particles, and this was confirmed by J.J. Thomson, and he was the first to determine the speed as well as E by m of the cathode ray particles. And then he also inferred that this value is independent of the nature of the metal as well as the gas which was taken in the discharge tube, and this proved the universality of the cathode ray particles. And then he named these cathode ray particles as electrons, and he suggested that electrons were fundamental universal constituents of matter. For this concepts and experiments he was awarded Nobel Prize. Later on, Millikan's oil drop experiment established that electric charge is quantized. So all these are discoveries which were done in the later part of the 19th century. So all these content is important for 1 mark questions. At the end of the session, 1 mark questions are given. You can just have a look at those 1 mark questions. Now the next concept of the lesson is electron emission. Now electron emission, the name itself suggests that electrons are emitted from metal surfaces, because metals are those substances which have more number of free electrons. Now let us see the meaning of free electrons. Now you have already studied the structure of an atom. Atom consists of a positively charged nucleus and electrons which are negatively charged, which revolve around the nucleus in certain specific orbits. Now all the electrons which are placed in the outermost shell, they are called valence electrons, are free electrons. Though the electrons are free to move about, they are free only to move only within the surface, but they are not able to come out of the surface. So if the electron has to come out of the surface, we need to provide some extra energy, because there is always a electrostatic force of attraction between the positively charged nucleus and the negatively charged electrons. So as soon as the electrons come out of the metal surface, the atoms which lose electrons, they become positively charged and the electrons are negatively charged. So these positively charged ions, they attract these electrons. Hence the electrons have to be provided with minimum energy to come out of the metal surface. So the electrons to come out from the metal surface, a certain minimum amount of energy is required. This energy is to overcome the attractive pull of the ions inside the metal surface. Now this definition is important. This minimum energy required by an electron to escape from the metal surface is called work function of the metal. So work function definition is important. The minimum energy required by an electron to escape from the metal surface is called work function, and it is denoted by a symbol phi naught, and it is measured in a unit called electron volt. Electron volt is the unit for energy. You also know the unit of energy in SI system is joule, but in atomic physics and nuclear physics we usually use electron volt as the unit for energy. Now the definition for 1 electron volt is as follows. 1 electron volt is the energy gained by an electron when it has been accelerated by a potential difference of 1 volt. And the conversion is 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 joule. Now there are two important definitions in the content. First one is electron emission. Electron emission is the phenomenon of emission of electrons from metal surfaces, and work function is the minimum amount of energy required by an electron just to escape from the metal surface. Now in the following table, we will just have a look at the work functions of a few metals which are listed here. Now as you look, the metals have different work functions. Now let us consider the first one, which is cesium. Cesium has a work function of 2.14, and as you look down the table, the work function values go on increasing. Now if I say the work function of cesium metal is 2.14 electron volts, it means you need to supply energy which is equal to 2.14 electron volts to remove electron from the metal surface. Whereas in platinum, the amount of energy which you have to provide is 5.65 electron volts. So if you just observe these values, you will come to know that removing electron from cesium is easier compared to removing electrons from platinum surface, because the work function for cesium is very small, so you can easily remove electrons by supplying a small amount of energy, whereas in platinum surface you have to provide large number of energy which is equal to 5.65, which means platinum does not easily emit electrons with less energy. Now once you know about electron emission, there are different types of electron emission, and if the electrons have to be emitted from the surface, you can emit the electrons by different methods. The energy can be supplied to the metal surface in different methods. Now let us see the different types of electron emission. Depending on the energy supplied, the emission can be of the following types, namely thermionic emission, field emission, photoelectric emission, and secondary emission. Now in your examinations, PU board examinations, they may ask you mention the types of electron emission. So when they ask you to mention, you need to just mention the names of these emissions: thermionic, field emission, photoelectric emission, and secondary emission. Now let us see one by one. Now thermionic emission. Now, thermal relates to heat energy. Thermionic emission: by heating a metal surface, you can free the electrons. So these electrons which are emitted from the heated metal surface are called thermions. Now as you look at the figure given here, there is a filament. When the filaments are usually made up of metals, when the filament is heated, the electrons absorb the energy and they escape from the filament surface. So all these electrons which are emitted due to thermal energy provided to them, they are called thermions. So this emission is called thermionic emission. So thermionic emission is a process where the metal surfaces are provided with thermal energy and electrons are made to emit from the surface. These electrons emitted are called thermions. The next emission is field emission. Now just look at the diagram. If you provide a strong electric field of the order 10 to the power 8 volts across the surface of the metal, due to the high potential provided, the electrons are emitted from the metal surface. So this kind of emission is called field emission. So the process of emission of electrons from the metal surface when a strong electric field of the order 10 to the power 8 volts is applied to the metal surface, then such emission is called field emission. Now the next kind of emission is photoelectric emission. Now photo means light, electric emission is electron emission. Now just observe the figure. When UV radiation or UV light is made to fall on the metal surface, electrons are emitted. These electrons are called photoelectrons because these electrons are emitted due to the incident light. When light is incident on the metal surface, electrons are emitted. So these electrons are called photoelectrons and the phenomenon is called photoelectric emission. So the process of emission of electrons from a metal surface when radiation of suitable frequency, suitable is the keyword which you have to mention. The process of emission of electrons from a metal surface when radiation of suitable frequency falls on the metal surface is called photoemission. These electrons are known as photoelectrons. Now the last one is called the secondary emission. Now again, if you look at the diagram, the process of emission of electrons from the metal surface by the bombardment of high speed electrons. In this case, high speed electrons are used to bombard the metal surface. Due to the energy of the electrons which are bombarded, the electrons are emitted. So these electrons which are emitted are called secondary electrons, and the process is called secondary emission. So these are 4 different types of electron emission, namely thermionic emission, field emission, photoelectric emission, and secondary emission. Now the third topic of today's session is photoelectric effect. Now this definition is again important. Photoelectric effect is a phenomenon of emission of electrons from a metal surface when light of suitable frequency falls on the metal surface is called photoelectric effect. And this effect was first discovered by Heinrich Hertz when he was performing experiments using electromagnetic waves. So the phenomenon of photoelectric emission was first discovered. This is again a 1 mark question. The phenomenon of photoelectric emission was discovered by Heinrich Hertz during his electromagnetic wave experiments. Now let us see how he discovered this effect. Now when he was experimenting using a cathode ray tube, when he was studying the electric discharge in a cathode ray tube, the electron discharge was found to be intense when the tube was exposed to UV light. So when UV light was made to incident on the cathode ray tube, then the electric discharge became more intense. So he concluded that this UV radiation is responsible for the emission of free electrons from the electrode of the tube, which made the electric discharge more intense. So thus he accidentally discovered the photoelectric emission. UV light is nothing but light. Photo means light. So when UV light is incident on an electrode of the tube, free electrons are emitted. So this phenomenon is called photoelectric emission. So he accidentally discovered this phenomenon when he was studying electric discharge in a cathode ray tube. Now this effect was studied and investigated in detail by 2 more scientists, namely Hallwag and Lenards. These two were 2 scientists who further investigated the photoelectric emission in detail. Now let us see the investigations done by these 2 scientists. Now let us first understand the experiment done by Lenard to study photoelectric emission. Now when you observe this diagram, C represents a cathode, A represents anode, this is a high tension battery, microammeter, and this is the incident radiation, and this represents a tube which is evacuated, and W represents a window through which light is made to fall. Light is made to fall on the cathode. As soon as light is incident on the cathode, electrons are emitted. These electrons are called photoelectrons, and they try to reach the anode. Due to the flow of these electrons, some current is produced in the circuit, which is measured by the microammeter. So these observations were made by Lenard. So Lenard observed that when UV radiation, the incident radiation is UV radiation, when this UV radiation is made to fall on the emitter plate is the cathode here, emitter plate of an evacuated glass tube enclosing 2 electrodes, namely the cathode and anode, a current is detected in the microammeter. A small amount of current is produced in the circuit, and this is measured by the microammeter. This shows that electrons are emitted from the cathode when UV radiation is made to fall on it. So he confirmed the process of photoelectric emission by performing this experiment. So when light is incident on the cathode, photoelectrons are emitted, and due to the flow of electrons, some current is produced in the circuit. So he confirmed the photoelectric emission using this experiment. Now let us see Hallwach's observations. Now in the first chapter, you have studied that when a substance loses electrons, it becomes positively charged. When it gains electrons, it becomes negatively charged. So based on this concept, Hallwach did experiments using a zinc plate. Initially, he took a negatively charged zinc plate, which means negatively charged means it has more number of electrons. So when a negatively charged zinc plate is exposed to UV rays, as soon as UV rays were made to fall on the zinc plate, which is negatively charged, it soon loses its negative charge. When we say it loses its negative charge, it means it is losing some of the electrons. So first observation is, when a negatively charged zinc plate is exposed to UV rays, it loses its negative charge. So when light falls on the zinc plate, it is losing some negative charge, and hence the negatively charged zinc plate is losing its negative charge. Next, second observation is, when an uncharged zinc plate was exposed to UV light. When I say uncharged, it means it has the same number of electrons and protons. So when an uncharged zinc plate was exposed to UV rays, it acquired a positive charge. Now when does a plate acquire a positive charge? When it loses its electrons. So even in this case, when the uncharged plate was exposed to UV rays, it is losing electrons and it is becoming positive. From here, it follows that when a zinc plate is exposed to high frequency radiation, electrons are emitted out of its surface, so that its initial negative charge is lost, or the zinc plate on losing electrons acquires a positive charge. So these two observations give us an inference that as soon as a zinc plate is exposed to UV rays, it is losing some of its electrons. So when light is incident on the metal plate, it is giving electrons. So this phenomenon is again confirmed by Hallwach. So these two were two important observations done by Hallwach and Lenard to investigate in detail and confirm photoelectric emission. These observations are important. You have to be thorough for 3 marks question. Now the conclusions of the experiment. They also observed that light of any frequency will not be able to emit electrons. So they observed when UV light fell on the emitter plate, no electrons were emitted at all when the frequency of the incident light was smaller than the certain minimum value called threshold frequency. So they also observed then light of any frequency will not be able to emit electrons. There is some certain minimum value for a given surface for the electrons to be emitted. This minimum frequency is called threshold frequency, and this threshold frequency depends on the nature of the material of the emitter plate. So this definition is important. Threshold frequency is the minimum frequency of the incident radiation below which electrons are not emitted from the metal surface. So few metals are there which will be very sensitive to even visible light. So as soon as the visible light is incident, they emit electrons, and few surfaces are there which are only sensitive to ultraviolet radiation. So only when UV light is made to be incident on the surface, they emit electrons. So all these materials which are sensitive to light radiations are called photosensitive substances, and when light is incident on them, electrons are emitted. These electrons are called photoelectrons, and the phenomenon is called photoelectric emission. Now this definition is important. Threshold frequency is the minimum frequency of the incident radiation below which electrons are not emitted from the metal surface. So this is the content for the first session. In the first session, you studied how radiation exhibits dual nature. Sometimes it behaves as a wave and sometimes it behaves as a particle. And then you observed few discoveries in the 19th century which were milestones for further developments in modern physics, and then you studied about electron emission, different types of electron emission, and then photoelectric effect, which was discovered by Heinrich Hertz and later on investigated by two more scientists, Halbach and Lenard, and then the conclusions. And few definitions which you have to be thorough are electron emission, work function, types of electron emission, threshold frequency. Now for the content is over. Now we will just go through frequently asked 1 mark questions. Who discovered cathode rays? All these are provided with the answers. You can just pause the video and you can just go through the answers. Now I will discuss few questions. Can radiation of any frequency be used for electron emission from the surface? Any frequency will not emit electrons. There is a minimum frequency. So the answer is no. And if you observe at the end of the question, some alphabets are given like K, U and S. K represents knowledge question. This is understanding, and S represents skill. And then 2 more questions. Name any 2 types. So you can mention any 2 types of the 4. You can just mention any 2. And this question is again important. 2 factors on which photoelectric function of a metal depend. It depends on the properties as well as nature of the surface. Now the 7th one, why alkali metals are photosensitive even to visible light? Because the work function is very less. Even if you provide less energy, electrons will be emitted. That is why alkali metals are very sensitive to visible light also. And 3 and 5 mark questions. Who discovered the phenomenon of photoelectric emission? Explain how did he discover the phenomenon. You have to write Hertz explanation and then explain briefly Halbach's experimental observations. These answers are provided in the content. You please go through the content and note down the answers. Now this ends the first session. Hope you have understood. Go through the video several times and note down the important points. And there is only one 5 mark question, observations of Halbach and Lenard about photoelectric emission. So this ends the session. Thank you.